Dmitry had an interview with a hiring manager for a senior data engineer position. Have a nice time watching. Hi, Dmitry. It will be a non-technical interview. I just want to understand how your goals and our goals tie up. Please, start with a brief intro.
I'm in Canada for last 10 years, mostly in BC, and I'm doing data engineering. Prior it was like data warehousing for around like 15 years. I used to work in Amazon for 3 different teams because in Amazon we have small teams like 2 pizza teams. I was mostly primary data engineer to support product managers and build like data platforms or support machine learning and data scientists to give them what they want. And then I switched to Microsoft. I used to work with Microsoft Gaming Xbox, and I did migration from legacy on-premise solution to the cloud. So I use like Databricks, Lakehouse. I consider myself as a like plumber or electrician. I have specific focus on data engineering and building the data infrastructure with the focus on the value for stakeholders. I'm always very interested to understand what business problems we want to solve. For example, if we use like objective key results, what's the company has like key results, what's the objectives, and how the data work that I'm going to do will actually impact this. If I'm going to build a pipeline, if I'm going to bring more data, like how I can see the impact, uplift in the users, uplift in the customers, so like revenue increase, decrease the cost, something like this. Some justification. That's why my work that I do, I kind of like really looking to understand why I'm doing, what the problem we want to solve, and so on and so on. And this might be because I used to work 5 years in Amazon with a lot of product managers. I really like to work with product managers. They have really good understanding of the products or vision for the product. They some like engineering and technical things. I'm kind of like support them on their journeys. They want to achieve something, and I always ask the question, okay, how you want to measure this? How are we going to measure this? Like, do we have enough data? Do we have events? Especially if we talk about the product itself, do we collect all events? Can we see the customer journey? Because there is always for the product managers, they need to decide what feature to implement, what route to choose, and they have a bunch of hypotheses and ideas. Why is faster we can validate and decide which one work, which one doesn't work. We can decide where to invest. It's like, and the book I read, I like to read books related to startup culture. The last book I read was the actual about angel investing. There is podcast All In, and there is, I forgot the guy name. So he wrote this book long time ago, like 2017, Angel, basically talking about like this, how the seed rounds going on. This helped me to better understand how I can helpful for startups. Even BioRender, I was browsing the product, I got the premium access. My first question is like, okay, I understand that we targeting mostly like research and scientists. What's the market size, right? What's the market size, and what if we can divide by the some cohorts of the customers, what are they, all scientists or is some from the business? If we're looking to grow the product, make it better, you need to understand what's the market size. Yeah, I don't have any information, but I sign NDA just in case if you want to share more details. But yeah, and then you, okay, how many daily like active users you have, and then how many new users you have per month? What's your like annual recurring revenue? What's your monthly recurring revenue? And is it growing over the times? This all could be more or less like decouple. I know you're using Auth0 like Okta for authentication, so that's great. You can collect some data from Okta to see all kinds of things. Yeah, I don't know, do you use Stripe for the subscription and payment, so you can collect and see all of these. And the challenge is coming clear. Yeah, you can take all those diverse data sets and put in the data warehouse, but the challenge how you combine them together to actual insight.
Can you give an example when you came up with a usable or operationable data product?
Then I used to work in Amazon. We call our dashboards, we use Tableau, and we called our dashboards the data products. The primary audience was the product managers. I was working with Amazon Alexa in research department. The department was covering the quality of Alexa. Then the customers interact with Alexa. They define the metrics logic to understand like Alexa did what you asked for or not, and basically to somehow you can estimate the quality of Alexa. There are lots of different models work inside. You can estimate the quality of the models, but also the product managers across the Amazon globally, they worked on different features. Basically built the data product that every product manager can self-serve, filter their own features and see kind of like performance of the features and can see benchmarking, like is it good or bad. And then for features or for issues then Alexa not performing well, we did like deep dive things. So I work with software engineers to basically custom solution that from aggregated dashboard because it's involved a lot of PI data. Then you go actually to particular voice conversation, whatever, can do deep dive from the aggregated data to you can pre-filter like, oh, this is the feature, this is the date, this is some other filters, and then you can deep dive and actually find the particular interaction with Alexa to understand what was happened and why this was happened. Because the number of product managers is pretty big across like all kinds of Amazon teams. So this was very successful. And this was the primary reason why I joined is to actually build this platform. So initially, before I joined, all the data was there for Alexa data, but it was very hard for product managers to get this data to answer their questions. And their questions is more or less the same. And they have some analysts in the team. So they can write the custom pipelines to run it manually, dump the data in spreadsheet and build some kind of reporting to sharing with everyone in spreadsheets. Another challenge was that because Alexa is a global product, so the data resides in the different regions of AWS data centers. You need basically at least 3 times the same queries. You pull data from 3 different places, then you combine it all together in the dashboard, and then you can share. So a bunch of time. My idea was just I was there just to try and understand what they're doing, how it works, and then I wrote the proposal of building the platform that will first all the data consolidate in the single platform to avoiding this jumping between like different regions, and the second it will have the automations and result some kind of like fact tables where you can hook to your dashboards and customers can just every day, assuming the data is refreshing, they can come and filter their features.
Was Microsoft your latest employment?
The most recently I work with Rock Your Data. There I was assigned on the different projects, like startup companies or like the huge companies, where I have to either work on available environment or building from scratch.
What was the biggest roadblock you hit when you were trying scaling a data platform to actually having usable data for project managers or data analysts?
It definitely depends on the organization size, but then we talk about scaling the platform, it's usually involves the cost. Very often the founders of the companies, they think about data platforms the same way they think about spreadsheet. Some data, give me something. We have all the data. What's the problem? Why we should pay like, I don't know, 10,000 a month for Snowflake? Every time then you think about, okay, we're going to bring new data set. For example, I don't know, I had integration with Amplitude and Braze. It's a bunch of data, but the cost of Snowflake will almost double. And then you need to have the justification. Yeah, we cost going to double. Why? You need to show the proof of value before you actually do the work. And the best way of doing this is the writing. You can write down, or there are different ways, like documents of write, especially in Amazon culture, writing is important. You can write the proposal or like press release, trying to highlight the problems that we currently have and the benefits that we're getting. Instead of consider it as a cost, it's actually investment, but you need to convince the leadership team. For the small company, you need to justify the value from work you do. Even more, I need to justify my value, right? The company pays salary to me. That's why I need to feel useful and I need to prove that the money the company paid to me, like they have in return. That's why I couldn't just to build the pipeline and integration blindly. I need to constantly be like involved in how this data gonna use, give some ideas and like be very proactive in terms of data because the product managers, the owners, especially in a small company, they're looking for the value. They're not looking like technical guy who come and do some kind of integrations. My other side of the story, for the bigger company, the cost usually is not the problem. The problem is to get buy-in from your colleagues, if you have engineering team, and from your engineering manager. This is slightly different. Instead of of course you show the value but you need to do some kind of proof of concept, because usually it's coming to the multiple options. You can do or not do this. You can do it differently. For example, you have Snowflake, you have Databricks, you have open source alternative. Which one to choose? Each has pros and cons. So the best way is doing proof of concept. Write down like the summary, give the demo, collect the feedback from your team and from your manager, and then collectively decide what to do next about this.
My last question for you. Are you comfortable with dbt and SQL transformations?
For me, 100% of projects that I work with Snowflake, they involve dbt. For me, dbt is a primary tool for Snowflake, and this is no-brainer. If company using Snowflake, they have dbt, and vice versa. But dbt also same for Redshift and BigQuery, all kind of cloud data warehouse. And I work a lot with dbt, and I work both with dbt core as an open source and dbt labs. I prefer dbt core, because for me, this is the only open source tool that actually work really well. And because it doesn't do anything, it just compile your SQL queries. Just last week, I did research SQL Mesh. This is alternative for dbt, but it has some nice features, how it handle virtual environment, dev and prod, but overall dbt way ahead. I decided not to invest any more time in SQL Mesh. With dbt, I 100% comfortable and know everything about this.
They also acquired SDF. I hope they'll integrate it into the product. It'll be perfect.
SDF, from my perspective, the idea of this right now to compile your SQLs, dbt should always connect the data warehouse. It takes time. And with SDF, it can do everything without connecting. Sounds not a big deal. Then we talk about, wait 1 minute 36, not the problem. But if you multiply by number of people in the team, number of days in a year, and number of models you trigger in dev and prod, that's a lot of minutes, hours, days.
Thank you. Now it is your turn to ask questions.
How long you with the company? What's the team size? How do you ingest data into Snowflake? When I work with Redshift, and we had similar case, we use kinesis to write into three events. And then in order to avoid copy data into Redshift, I use dbt external package. Did you hear about this? The dbt external package, basically, it manages Redshift Spectrum for you. Idea that in YAML file you can define this is my S3 bucket with the data, and this is the columns I have and the table and the schema, everything, and then you use it as a dbt source. Basically, dbt doing this pushing data from S3 into Redshift in a kind of dbt source way. This I used for, then exactly I had the cases for S3 to Redshift. It supports everything what supports by Spectrum, yeah. K and JSON, easygoing. Yeah, if you're curious just to check this, that's just alternative of this. And you pushing the data with what exactly? Where do you host airbyte? Yeah, I use on the project in fintech startup. We used fully open source. We use metabase, we use airbyte, and Trino, everything hosted on Kubernetes. It has so many problems, especially when you want to update. 50% of time we just troubleshooting either Trino scalability issues or airbyte update was a nightmare. We use Helm charts for everything. But the challenge then, especially if you do updates once 6 months, there is some version changes that is a crash. Did you consider airbyte cloud? dbt cloud cost 100 per seat. The issue I see you might have, you have glue own orchestration, you have maybe not own airbyte orchestration, and then dbt, but you have free orchestration things. Do you have anything centrally, like Airflow? And the Redshift cluster, what type of cluster do you use? The ML team consume data, do you unload from Redshift, or it's not connected at all? Yeah, for me, Redshift, the worst thing is machine learning team not really able to use Redshift. Is unload data. They use SageMaker to use GDBC to connect Redshift. Yeah, and they probably having Iceberg data lake prior, and then just fact tables in Redshift for BI. It's nice. The last book I read was Apache Iceberg from O'Reilly. They free distributed it. The one thing I didn't know before this book, I was aware about Lakehouse, that I always was mismatch table format and file format. I say, look, iceberg file format, but yeah,
Yeah,
there is Parquet file format, but the table format is the iceberg, or like
correct.
and Hive as well is the table format. Yeah, this the chapter is must read like for especially new people in data engineering. Always like if I find anything interesting, I just instantly sharing with the team, trying to uplift the people like who's like more junior. All my project, all my work is like my hobby. Thank you very much. Have a good bye.